It took me, yeah, 2, 3 years of full-time training to get to my first fight. But just before that, in the 5, 6, 7 years before that, traveling in a rock band, and you're kind of on the treadmill of the business of it. The music was fun, the audiences were fun, but the business was very difficult. So that same mindset where I'm just like, if you just do 25 haircuts a day, you can finance the thing to do the art. That started to feel that never-ending treadmill. We started to use a lot of drugs, cocaine and speed, especially when we were in Europe. People would just give it to us. We'd drink a lot. You'd find yourself on tour for 2 months through Europe, and you would drink in the morning. Like, obviously, this is not a healthy way. So you've got sort of that drive to succeed, whatever that looks like, but then you're kind of sabotaging yourself through the nature of the day-to-day. Because of kind of through whatever reasons. There's no excuse, and you can never make excuses for bad choices, but often bad choices just sort of find their way in, and you don't work hard to get them. So we're drinking, we're doing lots of drugs, we're eating terribly. The only exercise we're getting I was still doing flying kicks and stuff in the band. I would jumping, spinning kicks on stage and stuff. So, in that hour and 30, 40 minutes a night, you get some exercise, but no real exercise, terrible food, bad sleep, drugs, alcohol, really bad lifestyle. So I was in England, and I was sort of I don't even remember whose house I was in. But we are on day 4 of a crazy stretch, very little sleep, and I have a seizure. I had like a hypoglycemic seizure, and fully locked up my body. I felt like electricity into my arms, and I just shut down. And now, in my interpretation, that experience lasted a second or two, but very similar to when somebody gets knocked out in a fight. They could be laying there for 6 minutes, but their brain will have no memory of that. So 1 minute you're fighting, the next minute a doctor has a light in your face and he goes, "What day is it?" You don't remember. And it was the same thing. I thought it was seconds. I found out later it was like a minute or 75 seconds of seizing. I felt terrible. My body, there was all kinds of pain in my body after. So I came back and I went to a doctor, and the doctor says, I tell him everything, and I said, "Doctor, have I done any serious damage?" And he pauses and he literally goes, "You're a fucking idiot." That was his exact diagnosis. And he explains that it was actually a hypoglycemic seizure caused by the massive quantities of Red Bull that we were taking with vodka and Red Bull, drugs to keep you awake, then more sugar, no food. That actually, when after many, many hours, and I'd kind of slept a bit, 6, 7 hours the night before, as the alcohol's leaving your body, it's drawing sugars out of you, and your sugar's crashing. And so it's kind of something that happens to people in non-dangerous situations and more normal situations, but it was something created through my behavior. So, and I said, "Have I done like permanent damage? I'm only 35 or whatever I was at the time." And he says, "Well, if you change your life, if you change your behavior, there's no reason this should happen again." And I think within 36 hours, I went to a jiu-jitsu gym. And I had never trained jiu-jitsu. I was black belt in taekwondo, I trained Muay Thai and karate and lots of other things, but I had never trained jiu-jitsu. I went into a jiu-jitsu gym, Toronto BJJ, and I started training. And I went back. I trained about 6 times that week, and then I started training twice a day, Tuesday, Thursday, and 3 times a day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, walking back to do haircuts in between. And by the end of 3 or 4 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, I'm going to have a professional mixed martial arts fight. Because all of a sudden I could punch and kick again. I was moving. My body was suddenly feeling good. And I know that that's a punchline, like on Friends and stuff like that. A guy decides, I'm going to be a cage fighter now. But suddenly I was like, the last 15 years of my life, the thing I'm most passionate about suddenly returned, and everything makes sense. Suddenly my body isn't full of alcohol and drugs. I'm starting to see things. I'm eating quality food. I'm sleeping good at night. I feel stronger. Within weeks, and they gave me my blue belt, I think, honestly, maybe 9 weeks. I got a blue belt from under Wagner Fabiano's line.
George. It was George Brito.
George Brito wasn't there yet.
Okay.
It was
Wagner?
Kareem Al Said.
Yeah.
It was under Wagner, who's on black belt under Wagner. It was Nova Yanao. And then I started competing in jiu-jitsu. And then I pitched a TV show to Much Music, who I'd already been doing work through, saying, I'll still wear my eye makeup and have crazy hair and stuff and say, this guy's going to fight a pro MMA fight in a year. And we made a pilot. And suddenly I was like, no, I know exactly where my life is now going. And I'll tell you honestly, within 6 months or a year, I understood. I thought I was going to fight once. I've had 9 pro MMA fights because I didn't understand enough after 1, 2, and then a win, and then a win with a belt, in a regional show, and then a bad loss taken out on a stretcher. It was, I needed more experience to understand, but I understood that where my path was to commentate and analyze. I knew that in 2000